This is a Dragon Blazer production. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unsolved Comedies. As always, I'm your host, Kizea, and we've got...
Stefan.
There he is. So, this episode is going to be a little bit different because we're going to be talking about a case that was never on Unsolved Mysteries. The case was actually just it's a case, I think it happened in 1993, so at this point it's like over 20 years old, worth of a case, but, you know, it is what it is, and we're gonna look into this case a little bit, and, kind of try to figure out exactly what's going on with this case. First off, have you ever heard of this case?
Only from you talking about it all the time.
Well, and I've tried very hard not to give anything away because I don't want to have to... I want him to be really shocked by this case because this case is extremely shocking. If you've ever heard of the West Memphis Three, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This case is fucking crazy. Like, it's nutso. It's, out there, okay? So, I think the only thing I've mentioned to him about it, specifically, is that, it's about child murder and, some guys were wrongfully convicted.
Woohoo! Child murder!
Oh, God. Oh, God, it's starting already.
I'm just kidding. That's terrible.
I think that what's worse is that you made this joke and you have, 3 children of your own.
And I love them dearly.
But I'm actually going to let you decide where this one starts off.
I have the West Ohio 3.
Okay. I don't think that's the same. So I'm going to let you decide where this one starts off. We can either talk about the 3 8-year-old victims or the 3 wrongfully convicted men that I consider victims.
Let's get the crying out of the way and start with the 8-year-olds.
Let's start with the 8-year-olds then. Okay. I color-coded all of my stuff for this this episode in my notes because I did a lot of research, and a chunk of my research, it's hard to listen to if you're listening to somebody talk about it. It's hard to read. If you've ever watched the Paradise Lost documentaries, which I don't think you ever have.
I haven't.
The very opening scene, they're playing, Metallica Sanitarium. And
that's a bad thing?
No, but that's the soundtrack to this case at this point. That's the song everybody thinks of when you talk about this case. But they're playing this song, this eerie... I don't know if you've ever heard the intro, but it's
I mean, I've listened to
guitar.
A lot of Metallica. I'm not sure if I've heard this particular song.
It's picked out. It's arpeggios, which you don't know what that means because you're not a guitarist, but if somebody out there is a guitarist, they will get that reference. They're arpeggios, which means that they're singular notes plugged in synquation of each other. So, like, you're thinking the intro to, like, Good Riddance, like that, that's an arpeggio, right? So, it's this creepy arpeggio set, and then they open the scene into the woods, and the first thing that you lay eyes on when you're watching this documentary is a little boy laying on the side of a creek bed, tied up, dead. And the next thing you see is another little boy tied up on the side of a creek bed, dead. And then you see a third boy laying next to the first boy, tied up on the side of the creek bed, dead. Like, they show you the three boys' dead bodies, and it's awful to watch. Like, I remember the first time I watched it, like, just looking at the boys, I cried. Like, it was awful. But it is something that makes me emotional, so don't judge me if, like, I cry at some point or get upset, because, like, I have little siblings, I have little cousins, you know, I want to have kids of my own someday, so this stuff, like, it makes me so fucking sick that somebody would do this to children. But before we jump into all of that horribleness, I do want to define something that we're going to need defining for later on in the case. And I've explained it to you once before, but just for the people listening, I would like to explain what it is. It's called an Alfred plea. And we might not need this until the second episode, but I'm going to define it in the first episode and the second episode so that if we have any questions, people can, I don't know, comment on the Instagram or whatever and ask us questions about the Alfred plea, and I can clarify more in the next episode if I have to. So have you ever heard of an Alfred plea before, besides what I've told you?
When you explained to me what it was, I knew the situation, if I remember right, what you were talking about, but I never heard of it called an Alfred plea.
Yes. So what an Alfred plea is when it's basically a way for the state to say, we fucked up in convicting you, but we don't want you to sue us for all the abuse that happened to you in prison. So, we're going to let you go free, but you still have to say you're guilty. Like, you still have to claim to be guilty, is basically what it is. So, like, you go into court to accept your Alfred plea, and you stand in front of a judge. And, like, these boys specifically, and I'll play the clip in the next episode when we're talking about the case. We're talking about the court hearing. These boys, like, Jesse Miss Kelly goes, I had nothing to do with the death of these three boys. I had nothing to do with their bodies being found. I had nothing to do with anything. I don't even know the boys. I'm completely innocent, but it's at the moment in my best interest to plead guilty, so I will plead guilty. Then that person is then free to leave, if they so choose. Like, they have to sign paperwork that they're pleading guilty, but then that person is free to leave and walk the streets. Which, first of all, if they really think these people are child murderers, you're going to let them walk the streets free? Like, really? Like, seriously? So many problems with this case. Yeah. So many problems. So, now, let's talk about awfulness, horribleness, absolutely vile things that have happened, right? So, we're going to jump into West Memphis, Arkansas, in 1993, in May, to be specific. There's three boys that are second graders at Weaver Elementary. They are 8 years old, all three of them. In fact, I have their birthdays written down for when I talk about them. And they were all Cub Scouts as well, right? Like, all three of them, they were on the same Cub Scout troop. Like, I think one of the boys' mothers, after he was found, like, wore his Cub Scouts bandana on her head all the time because it just made her feel close to him. And I can only imagine that that's just awful, you know?
Yeah.
But the main victims are 3 boys named Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Chris Byers. And I'm just going to distract
And
for a minute.
the cat.
I am so sorry if you can hear digging right now. My cat's building a fucking sandcastle in her litter box, and I don't know why. Why does she choose to do this when I'm recording? I don't know. I'm gonna throw something at her, though.
Oh.
You are in better sight. If she starts doing that again, throw that at the litter box so that she leaves the litter box. Like, don't hit her with it.
Are you sure you want me to do this? You're not going to have PTSD of all the times I've tossed things at you?
Every time I ask Steven if he hates me, he throws something at me.
And disclosure, it is literally almost a daily occurrence. Hence the throwing things at her.
Yeah, okay, so she's out of the litter
It's
box
deserved.
now. Thank God. So now we can get back to focusing on the important things. So Stevie Branch is one of the 8-year-old boys. Let me actually pull up some pictures of the boys real quick.
Oh, good.
I
get to see the cuteness and sadness of what's about to happen to these poor boys.
I know, it's awful. So let's look at Stevie Branch first. Stevie Branch was a mama's boy, very much so. Little boy. Cute as shit kid. Like, honestly, like, he's so cute. That's why it makes me so sad. Like, when you look at the other two are cute as shit, too, so you just feel so bad.
Aww.
Now, he's so cute. He lived with his mother, Pam Hobbs, and his stepfather, Terry Hobbs. And he had a little sister named Amanda. And he was born on November 28th, 1984. So he was actually the youngest of the 3.
Say November 28th?
28th. I don't know why
November child. Woo, woo.
I don't know why I think.
What was the year?
1984.
Oh, geez, he would only be 2 years younger than me.
Oh, wow, really?
I was born November 1982.
Wow.
It just, same month. 2 years. He was born in the same year as my brother.
Oh, really? He's the same age as Ricky?
My brother was born in 84.
Wow. That's a little... That makes me... I can't.
So I would have been 10 when this happened.
Yep.
If he was 8 when he was murdered, I would have been 10.
Yep. So the next person, the next boy, the next victim that we're going to talk about is Michael Moore.
Not the director.
No, not the director. He was also 8 years old. He was born in July 27th, 1984. There's Michael. He had an older sister.
Angry.
Well, he was a little Cub
He
Scout.
was not a fan of picture day.
No. He was a little Cub Scout. He liked to play police officer. He was super cute. And when you actually look at his dad, he looks a lot like his dad, actually, which is super...
He looks like an angry police officer.
Respect
my authority.
Stop! You're cut off. So Michael Moore, he was super into Cub Scouts. And he liked playing police officer. Like, the day he went missing, I think his mom said that he had on, like, a little police officer shirt or a police officer sticker or something like that. Because his friends would play cops and robbers, and he would always have to be the cop, right? So, super cute kid.
Well, yeah, he doesn't want to be the one being arrested all the time.
He
wants to play as the...
as the arrester.
Well, as long as you get away, you want to play the robber.
He lived with his mother, Dana, and his father, Todd. Now, this is actually not that this is important in any way, but Michael Moore was the only person that didn't have a stepfather in the mix. His parents were together. And we'll talk about Todd a little bit more later on, because when we talk about the actual reporting of the boys being missing, Todd is kind of absent, and we'll talk about that later. And then the last boy that we have is Christopher Byers. He had ADHD, was on Ritalin. He was born on June 23rd, 1984. He lived with his mother, Melissa, and his stepfather, John Mark Byers. But from everything that I've read, John Mark Byers has never called Chris his stepson or anything like that. Like, I guess from what I've heard and read, Chris Byers, his mother Melissa was pregnant with him when she met John Mark Byers, and they got married, and John Mark raised Chris as his own for a very, very, until he passed, obviously. But I never have seen anything, there's a couple of comments where you hear that their relationship wasn't good, but other than that, John Mark seems to be very, he always says, my boy. They killed my boy, my son. So he clearly didn't think of Chris as a stepchild. So from here on out, when I talk about John Mark, I'll be calling him Chris Byers' father, just because I feel like he took on the role. That's Chris. Again, very, very cute kid.
Everybody's got that 90s bull haircut.
I mean, this did happen in 1993. Later on, when we talk about Chris, you'll actually find Chris had the worst of it. When they found his body was the most mutilated.
Oh, jeez.
So
why out of all the cases you could start out with, we're done with unsolved mysteries. Now we're doing our own cases, and the first case you choose is 3 poor little 8-year-olds.
I don't know. Maybe because
little angels.
Because it's unsolved, though. It's unsolved.
I'm not questioning whether it's solved or not.
The reason that this case always sticks out to me so much, I don't know why I picked this case either. I'm just going to be completely honest with you.
Can't we have a good old-fashioned murder of an adult?
I got super...
trying to make us cry and everything.
I got super, overwhelmed doing all of the research for this because I had literally, we decided we were doing this case on Sunday or Saturday night. And I had to research all of this by today. So I got really overwhelmed with research.
Next case, we don't use Sweet Baby Angel's murders.
Yes. But so I took a couple of cheats and easy ways just to get some of the research done, because I have 20 pages of information here. And that's just background. And that's just information on the investigation. And that's just information about Stevie and Michael and Chris. And just information about Jesse and Jason and Damien. That's all this is. There's nothing else in here. So it was just an extremely overwhelming case to start out with, just with a lot of information. And I kind of had to, I love doing my own research for cases, and I kind of had to cheat a little bit. It was just, it was so much that I got so overwhelmed. I cried at work because I was doing this research, and I was like, I'm never going to get this done. It was bad. So next case probably will not be as demanding. Sorry, guys, but...
yeah, let's do the next unsolved case on someone who wanted assisted suicide or something. Someone that wanted to die... and not children!
I'm sorry!
Not poor little innocents!
I know, I'm sorry. I do want to cover the John Benet Ramsey case at some point.
Oh, good. Let's do that next. I mean...
So let's get the bad part out of the way so that we can get to the next part, because the next part...
The bad part? Which part of this is good?
It's not good. But let's get the horrible part out of the way, the part that might make us cry, and then you can make jokes later on when we're talking about horrible police officers and awful police work, right?
Oh, great. Exciting. Let's go.
Okay, so on May 5th in 1993, like I said, all three of the boys went to Weaver Elementary, and they all went home different ways. So Pam and Amanda walk Stevie home from school at 2:45. They go to pick him up, and they walk him home. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen this movie, but there's actually a movie with Reese Witherspoon in it called Devil's Knot, based on this case. And they show him, like, dancing and singing on his way home. Like, they just show him acting like a little boy, and it made it so much worse.
Jeez.
Like, and I haven't even watched the whole movie. I cried watching the trailer. It was awful. And Stevie did homework for about 15 minutes or so until Michael Moore comes over.
This is 93, so maybe was he singing some Ice Ice Baby? Or
He was just singing a cute little song to his mom. It was like, I don't even remember what it was.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
It was just cute. Like I said, that movie's not necessarily based on real events, but it is based on the case, and watching the trailer for it, I was broken inside. I cried. So he does homework for about 15 minutes, from what I can understand. And then Michael comes over and he's like, hey, I know Stevie got a new bike. Because Stevie had just gotten a new bike from his grandfather, his maternal grandfather earlier that week because of his birthday or something. I don't remember exactly what the circumstances were, but he just got a new bike, right? So Michael comes over and is like, hey, can Stevie ride bikes? Jackie Hicks is the name of the grandfather, by the way, that gives him this bike, and we'll talk about him a little bit later because I have some theories, and one of the theories is actually corroborated by Pam Hobbs. So Pam tells Stevie, yeah, totally, you can go outside, but you have to be home by 4:30. Because Pam can't drive herself to work. Pam got a DWI at some point, and so her license is suspended, so she can't drive herself to work. So she's like, you have to be home by 4:30 so that your stepdad can take me to work. And you're only 8, so I can't leave you at home by yourself, that type of thing. Because she was a night waitress, so she had to be to work at 5. And just a heads up, I don't know how Chris got home that evening, but Michael walks home by himself every day. And we'll talk about that in a little bit because there's a couple of weird things that a boy named Aaron says happened on Michael's ride home, or Michael's walk home. So Chris Byers then shows up at Stevie's, but he shows up at the house at about 3:30. So by that time, Michael and Stevie have already gone. They're already out playing outside somewhere. But Chris Byers does see that there's a show on TV that he likes to watch. And he's like, hey, do you mind if I stick around for like 15 minutes and watch this show? Because obviously he's 8. It was a little cartoon. I think it was maybe like the Muppets or something.
93, probably the Muppet Babies.
Actually, I think that's what it was.
Muppet Babies.
I'm too young for that. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
It's a cartoon of the Muppets as babies.
I've never seen it.
Like
I saw
Baby Kermit.
I saw Baby Looney Tunes.
No. Muppet Babies.
Sorry.
I used to watch it because I was 10.
But, so Chris sees that this show that he likes is on, and he's like, can I stick around and watch it for a few minutes before I go find the other two? And Pam's like, yeah, sure. And Pam says that she thinks Chris left around 4 to go find the other boys.
So they were all friends? They all knew each other?
They were all friends. They like, all were really close at school, and they all, hung out after school and played. Like, Michael and Stevie were, like, best friends, so they hung out all the time, and I think Chris was kind of new to their friend group. Like, Chris, I don't know exactly how it happened, but they lived, like, Chris and Michael lived on the same side of town, and then Stevie lived on another side of town. So, however it worked out, Chris was new to the friend group, but, obviously the boys were 8 years old. They were like, as long as you know how to play this game and that game, sure, you can hang out with us, right?
As long as we play some tag.
Right.
Hide and seek.
He leaves Pam's house at 4 p.m., and at some point, John Mark Byers says that he saw his son riding, I don't know what the technical term is for it, but I know it was like a super big thing in the 90s, and a lot of people got hurt doing it. But he sees Chris riding his skateboard, because Chris doesn't have a bike, Chris has a skateboard. So they see Chris...
So you're not sure what he was riding?
He was riding a skateboard, but he was riding it on his stomach. I know there's a term for it.
Boogie board?
No, I don't know, maybe. But he was riding this skateboard in the middle of the street on his stomach. And John Mark Byers sees it, and he's like, what are you doing? That's so dangerous. And he gives him a spanking and tells him, go home and clean this and that, and then once you're done cleaning, you can come back outside and play, but I need you to go do this because you're being punished, because that's extremely dangerous, and I don't want you to think it's okay to do again, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. So he goes home, and I think that he was told to clean, like, the yard and the carport or the garage or something like that. And so he does. He goes home, does that, and his mother says that she remembers seeing him, but then at some point he, like, disappeared. Like, he came in and out, but she was on the phone with, like, her boss or something, so she really didn't pay much attention to him. This was the 90s. People let their kids do whatever they wanted all the time, right? I mean, I was born in the early 2000s, and if I wanted to, like, my grandma lives on this street, and if I was here with my mom, I could say, hey, can I go play with Davey? And she'd be like, yeah, sure, go out and play. Just make sure you're home when the lights, like the street lights come on. And I was born in 99, and I grew up in the early 2000s, so that was even still a thing when I was a kid. So I assume it was common in the 90s as well, especially in this small little Bible Belt town. They probably didn't think anything bad was going to happen to their children. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody here was churchgoers and believed in God and prayed and were very, very religious people. So they probably saw no problem with it. So Deborah O'Tinger says that she sees the boys at 6 p.m., She says that she was headed to dinner for her mom's, and that's how she remembers the time. But she sees the three boys at 6 p.m., and then Dana Moore also sees them, so that's Michael Moore's mother. She also sees them at 6 o'clock, and she says that they were heading north on 14th Street. And then somebody, I didn't catch this person's name. One of the sources that I used was a woman named Stephanie Harlow, her YouTube videos on the case, because I love her videos, and this is not a derogatory term in any way, but I mentioned to Steven that her videos are like a dump of information. Like, she has everything you could ever want to know about the case, and she was able to do a lot of research that I wasn't able to do. Like, she had access to Damien's book, which we'll talk about a little bit later, because Damien was sentenced to death at the end of this case. So it's a big deal that he's even alive right now. You know what I'm saying? So he wrote a book called Life After Death, and she was able to read that, but then some of the research that we did lined up as well. Like, we both watched all three of the Paradise Lost movies, even though for me it's been a couple of weeks since I watched them, but we both watched them. So I mainly used her to get information pieces that I couldn't. And she didn't, I don't remember her giving this person's name, but she says between 5:30 and 6 o'clock, the boys are seen going into Robin Hood Hills. Now, Robin Hood Hills is this place. So, do you know... So, you know how I'm going to be giving some information about where we live. I'm not going to tell you the city that we live in, but do you know when you're coming down Lexington Spring Mill and there's that turn, like, right after like right before you get into Lexington, and there's woods, and then on one side of the woods there's the street that you turn on, and then on the other side of the woods there's another busy street and some businesses. It was kind of like that, but bigger, like way bigger, like huge. I think it was like 4 acres worth of woods, and on one side was obviously the neighborhood that the boys lived in, and on the other side was, I think it was Interstate 41 and something called the Blue Beacon Truck Stop, which was like a place where truckers could go in, like if you're driving your truck and you're tired, you can go in, take a nap, or you can buy food, or you can wash your truck or take a shower. Like, I don't really know much about truck stops or truck washes. Like, I'm a 20-year-old girl. Like, I don't know any of that stuff, you know? But that's that's what this area was between. And so a lot of the parents didn't like their kids playing in that area because obviously
truckers are creepy.
There's like a trucker stop right here, and not only is there a trucker stop.
Sorry if we offend any of you truckers listening to this while you are driving in a truck.
We love our trucker listeners. We love our trucker listeners.
As long as you're not creepy murdering people.
How many truckers?
Don't kill 8-year-olds, truckers. Just a friendly reminder.
Why do we have to remind the truckers only? Why can't we remind everybody that it's not?
Because currently, right now, truckers are who matter.
Trucker lives matter. Truckers' lives matter. But, so obviously, you know, and not only that, but right off of, let me see if I wrote it down. I really think it's like Interstate 40. Robin Hood Hills. Yeah, okay, so it's off of Interstate 40, which, I don't know if you've ever heard of Interstate 40. I hadn't. I had to look it up, like, and see where it was and, like, where all the places it went to. But apparently it's, like, a super busy highway. Like, it's one of the most busy interstates in the United States. I don't know about you, but I would not want my child playing right next to a super busy highway because...
Not a fan with my 8-year-olds.
No, no. So, obviously it was just... Actually, I do have this chick's name. Her name was Jamie Clark Ballard. I forgot I wrote it on the next page because I ran out of space. But she's the person that says that she saw the boys go into Robin Hills between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. And she says that she saw 2 black teenagers and a white teenagers come out of the woods later. Particularly the Robin Hood Hills area. So, between 6 and 6:30, the boys are seen a few houses down from Stevie's house. So, like I said, Michael and Chris live on one side of town, and Stevie lives on the other. So, they're down by Stevie's house, which I think is closer to Robin Hood Hills, and they're a few houses down from there. And this is super important because Terry Hobbs, who, I don't know if you remember me saying this at the beginning, is Stevie Branch's stepfather, yeah?
Yes.
He is the last person to be seen with the boys while the boys were alive.
Oh.
He was seen with the boys, and he was telling them to come back. Like, I imagine him walking down the street and seeing the boys riding their bikes, and he was like, hey, come back here. Like, probably trying to get Stevie, because obviously, like, if you tell your son, you need to come back by 4:30 because I need to go to work, and you can't find him, you drive around almost so late to work trying to find your kid, like, I'd be pissed off, you know. I'm going to go, hey, what are you doing? Your mom told you to be back by 4:30, you know, why are you still out playing? But this same person says that they're seen at 7 o'clock and Terry Hobbs is, like, near them walking towards Robin Hood Hills. Don't know how true that is. That could all be speculation. These are all hearsay, witness testimonies, which we know that witness testimonies can be, you know. But, so, the boys crossed at some point, and this is from Stephanie's video, along with the Paradise Lost videos. There was a pipe, like a pipe bridge, over this creek. And on, like, one side, if you don't cross, this pipe bridge, you stay on the side of Robin Hood Hills that's close to the neighborhood. So the relatively safer area if you're going by the parents, right? These boys crossed the pipe bridge to the other side, which was closer to the Blue Beacon truck stop. And nobody really knows why they did this. Obviously, the boys are now deceased and were found deceased. So we don't know if maybe somebody led them out this way, or if maybe they were, like, going to go swimming, or if they maybe wanted to go climb some trees out that way. We don't really know, but we do know that they crossed this pipe bridge because their bikes, when their bikes were found on the other side of this pipe bridge.
Oh.
So, we know that they crossed that bridge. So John Mark, Chris's father, reports Chris missing. And he says that he last saw Chris at 5:40. Because he comes home and him and his wife want to go to dinner. But they want to take their kids and they want to go to dinner as a family. And they're like, we need to go find Chris. So they start driving around, kind of doing the same thing that Pam and Terry were doing before they had to take Pam to work. They're driving around the neighborhood looking for him, looking for Stevie and Michael's bikes. Because like we mentioned before, Chris is on a skateboard, so they're not going to see a skateboard. But they know who he's hanging out with, so they figure if they find Michael and Stevie, they'll find Chris, right? Which is a reasonable assumption. But he hasn't seen his son in hours, so he reports Chris missing at 8:10 that night. And the officer that takes the report, her name is Regina Meeks. Okay? And Regina Meeks, first of all, when you watch her speak during the court case, like, I wanted to punch her in the face. Because she, like, first of all, this is the 90s. There's not a lot of females on the police force. But when she's speaking in court, like, she looks lazy, and then when we find out more later, this information in particular I did get from Stephanie. I couldn't corroborate it anywhere. But she gets a report of a bloody man who's either bleeding or covered in blood, disoriented black man, either bleeding or covered in blood at a Bojangles restaurant, right? Right after Chris is reported missing. And she doesn't make the connection. She goes to this Bojangles restaurant. And, like, if you were a cop and you got a report saying, hey, there's this bloody, weird guy in our restaurant, could you maybe come check it out? What are you going to do when you get to the restaurant?
I mean, there's a bloody guy coming out of a restaurant?
He, like, literally, like I said, this information is from Stephanie, but she says that the report is that there was a Bojangles restaurant down the road from Chris Byers' home. She gets a call about 15 minutes after she's been looking for the boys, because she doesn't actually report them missing. She's like, I'll go look for them. I'll keep my eye out, is what she says. So, let me see if I can find my notes on this and be a little bit more accurate. But there's a Bojangles, and there's another call. Like, this chick is apparently the only person taking calls all night long. Like, apparently she's the only nighttime officer in West Memphis. Because she gets a call to go to this Bojangles restaurant, and they're like, hey, there's this bloody guy. He seems disoriented. I don't know if he's bleeding or if he's covered in somebody's blood. But he's bleeding. He's dripping blood all over our restaurant, smearing blood all over the walls. He's in the bathroom, in the women's bathroom. Can you come check it out? What are you going to do as a cop? Basic. First thing, you pull into the parking lot. What are you doing?
I mean, I'm probably arresting the bloody guy coming out of the restaurant.
No. I need you to go more basic. I need you to go more basic than that.
Really fought with some rare steak, it sounds like.
No, I need you to be more basic than that. Like, you literally pull into the parking lot. I'll put it to you like this. Are you going to pull into a parking space and go inside and see what the fuck these people are talking about? Are you going to go through a drive-thru and take the report there?
Hello, welcome to Mr. Bojangles. What can I get you today? Well, I really need a report on a bloody guy inside your restaurant right now. Okay, that's one report on a bloody guy. Would you like some Bojangles fries with that? Yeah, I'll take some fries with that. Let's talk to that bloody guy.
She literally goes through the drive-thru. Like, what kind of person? What kind of person? I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit upset. What kind of person goes through a fucking drive-thru to take a police report on a bloody guy? You know you have, like, 2 kids. At this point, she knows that there's 2 boys missing. This is within walking distance of where the boys were last seen, right? And you're telling me that you're gonna fucking go through that? You're not even gonna go in there and look. You're not even gonna look at the type of spread of this blood. You're not gonna look at any of this shit. Like, nothing. You're just gonna go through the drive-thru. Yeah, I got a call about, a bloody guy in here. Can y'all, give me that? I'm sorry.
Would you like to supersize that? We could add about 2 convictions to this guy. Yes. About 25 cents. Supersize.
25 cents. Supersize me.
Copyright McDonald's.
I wouldn't even know what that was. I'll be completely honest. I wouldn't even know what a supersize was if I never watched the movie Super Size Me. I don't know if you saw that, but it was a movie where this guy...
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
Yeah. It's like a movie where this guy goes around and eats nothing but McDonald's for 30 days straight. And every time they ask him if he wants to supersize it, he has to say yes.
I'm just waiting for bloody guy on the menu at Bojangles.
Bloody guy!
Well, you'd like the bloody guy special?
Stop.
Bloody guy special.
So yeah, she's...
Would you like some toe fingers with that?
Ew, fuck. I'm sorry he's so vile, you guys. I really am. So this black, bloody, and later on, when I was watching Stephanie Harlow's videos, she talks about when the boys were found, when their bodies are recovered. And she says, and I don't think she has any proof of this, but what she says is that the Bojangles guy looked the same as the police officers after they had dug through the water to recover the 3 boys' bodies. So then what would you do? If you go through the drive-thru and you get this report that your fucking lazy ass was too lazy to go inside. She could have taken swabs right then, but no. Mm-mm. Why would she be a good cop and do good police work? No. Unheard of. So, she goes through the drive-thru. She gets this fucking report, right? This lazy-ass report that she gets. And the guy's like, yeah, here's all the information on this man. He actually just left on foot a couple of minutes ago, right before you got here, and he went that way. You're in a police cruiser. You could probably catch him if you wanted to go looking for him. What would you do?
I mean, I'd wait for my report, obviously.
After you've gotten the report.
Oh.
And you hear that this man just left on foot, not even a couple minutes ago.
I'm finished my fries.
Finished my fries. She takes a call on a domestic. On somebody I don't know, a couple of kids that are being troublemakers, somebody vandalizing something, TPing somebody's house or throwing eggs. I don't know. Stephanie said throwing eggs, but I think that was a sarcastic point that she made, throwing eggs. No, it was a couple of kids that were causing trouble, raising hell, you know?
I don't really want to deal with this bloody guy. That sounds like a mess. All right. I'm going to deal with this less messy situation of eggs.
Eggs or toilet paper, whatever the fuck it was.
Rotten eggs.
Literally.
Sounds so
I'm
much
sorry.
better.
I'm sorry, but this sounds important, not the bloody man that could potentially, and let's just think for a second that maybe this Bojangles guy...
She is setting back female officers years.
Literally. So, and let's just think for a minute that maybe this Bojangles guy had nothing to do with the murders, and it's just a coincidence that he came in there bloody.
It just happens to be a coincidence.
Do we think
every
it's possible?
Tuesday, he comes in here a little bloody.
Like, we never hear anything else about this Bojangles guy. What if this Bojangles guy was, dying? Like, what if he had been stabbed and was bleeding out and, had just left and was dying? Like, you're telling me that you didn't even go check on this guy to see if he was okay?
Sir, would you like medical assistance with that? You can add that to your supersized meal. Medical assistance? Do you got some gas?
Please help me. I'm all for empowering women and, being a powerful
Unless they're
woman.
dumb.
But this bitch is stupid. What do you mean? Why? I'm gonna go handle this domestic real quick, and I'm not gonna worry about that man that could potentially be dying over there by the fucking dumpster. No. What? Like I said, this case gets me heated. Regina Meeks in particular gets me fucking heated. Ultimate facepalm right there. Sorry. Okay. So, at some point, Regina Meeks gets a call from Dana Moore, who is Michael Moore's mother. Excuse you.
Did mom call her and was like, hey, so can't find my son. Have you seen any bloody guys today?
I didn't.
Perhaps.
I didn't mention this before, but when Chris Byers, so like I said, Chris Byers and the Moores live, the Byers and the Moores live really close together. They're almost across the street from one another. So when John Mark Byers reports Chris missing, Dana Moore sees that, and she's like, I'm going to go across the street and talk to this cop, because my son's missing too, and he's probably with Chris. And Regina's like, I'll just keep an eye out for both of them, because I figure they're together. Which, to be completely fair, I'll give it to her, is a reasonable assumption. But she never actually took Dana Moore's statement at that time. Dana Moore had to wait until about 9:30, for her statement to be taken. So, this chick, it just...
Ma'am, you're gonna have to wait 1 second. I'm trying to finish my fries from Bojangles and my Bloody Guy special. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can you wait? Please, pardon me. Please wait.
Please wait. She's Regina Meeks. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry if your name is Karen, but Regina Meeks sounds like a fucking Karen. I don't even Okay, I'm done. I think I'm done.
I am sorry to all the Karens listening out there.
I think I'm done. I think that part is over. I'll get heated again about Regina Meeks when we talk about the case, and I played the clip of Regina Meeks literally, sitting there in court talking about what she did when she really didn't do anything.
Spoilers.
So, just to be clear, because I've been talking a lot about Dana Moore, Todd Moore, Michael's father, was actually out of town. He was a trucker, and he was miles away from West Memphis when his son went missing. He would not get back until 5 a.m. the next morning when it was just starting to get light out, and the first thing that he did was change his clothes, put on some boots, and go over to get he got John Mark Byers and went over to Stevie Branch's house as soon as he got back. And was like, let's go look for our kids, right? First thing I would do, but whatever. But anyways, we've been recording for a while, and I think we'll probably stop this part here. What do you think?
Yeah, we're probably going to make this into a 4-part now instead of a 2-part because we realized that we recorded a lot on just the first part. And
you guys are used to hour and 15-minute episodes. This
hour and a half was our last one.
2 hours long without our intro and outro. So, long podcast, so we're going to chop it in half and let you guys get real spoiled this week with 4 podcasts. Ooh.
Ooh.
But let's do our plugs real quick. You guys can always follow us on unsolved_comedies on Instagram. And of course, the Dragon Blazer Production official Instagram. And of course,
Dragon Blazer Productions on the Facebook page. I got a fan page. And then I also have a YouTube page, which has a bunch of my podcasts that I'm working on putting all on there. And also video game videos just because I like to do them.
oh yeah, you guys should totally check out the YouTube channel because if you guys are into pro wrestling, he's actually got 2 podcasts for that one. And he's got a gaming podcast as well. So if you're into any of those things, you can check out those podcasts and then also watch ours while you're there.
Yes, it's the YouTube page is called Dragon Blazer Productions as well, and then my Twitter is @DragonBlazerPro.
@DragonBlazerPro.
Yes, that's what I said.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening. We appreciate it, and as always,
be careful when you go to Bojangles and bloody people are there.
Bloody. Let's not even get started on that bitch again. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey everyone, I'm Steven from many different podcasts like Drunk Like Me, Pro Wrestling Apologist, The Rage and Blaze Show, and of course, That Got Dark. So, please like and subscribe